That's where I think my lowest low was really, man, was where I was like, I got out of the Marine Corps and I didn't have any purpose anymore. You just talked about it. Like, you need purpose, man. You need purpose. You need a mission. And I felt so lost. There'd be times I would leave at like 6 a.m. and I'd go backfill a job, I'd go do dirt work with a skid steer, and I would do that until like 7, and then I'd drive back home, and it would be an hour drive, and I would be taking a gooseneck and a flatbed, and doing the whole 9 yards. And during that time, you have a lot of time when you're sitting in equipment and you're moving one dirt pile to fill in a hole. I mean, and all day long you're rotating, you're doing dirt, and I'm like, this is what my life looks like. That was when I had this epiphany, like, this is it. Like, this sucks. Because even though my dad owns a company, my dad's just not one of those guys that's like, son, you could run this one day, you could do this, you can cultivate you up, and that's good. I think it's good. He wasn't trying to push it on me, but at the same time, I didn't feel like there was any growth for me. And so I just was I got more and more and more and more frustrated with, like, I felt like I did really cool shit. There was a time in the Marine Corps where I was shaking hands with Senator McCain during his presidential election campaign in Iraq on a soccer field with a belt-fed machine gun in my lap, and I have a photo of it. And then I'm over here running a skid steer, getting an energy drink at 7-Eleven. I felt like a fucking loser, to be honest, man. I just, like, it was the worst. And I'm telling my girl this, who's my wife now, and I went to the gym all the time still. I was a huge gym advocate ever since like I was 17, like I told you guys. And I had a buddy at the gym. He's like, you know everything about building. You've been doing it. Why don't you build houses? And I was like, bro, what about a company? It's all these things, all these what if this happens, all this
all
bullshit.
The reasons you can't.
I come up with all of them. Yeah. And he looks at me, he's like, basically like, shut the fuck up. You're making up excuses. And I'm like, okay. So I'm asking and I'm asking and asking. And I'm listening to him. These guys are like about 10 years older than me. He had a successful real estate business. My other buddy had a successful landscaping company. And he's like, you should do it. Yeah, totally. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, what's the next step? So I go to my dad and say, hey, I'm going to start building houses. I want to start building houses. Buddy at the gym says I can do it. My dad being an engineer, my dad's an advocate and an entrepreneur. He's on both sides of it, but also a father.
Yeah.
So he's like, but he's a pessimistic person. So when it comes to it, he's like, this could happen. This could happen. This could happen. And I'm like, fucking scared. You know what I mean? Like, all these things could happen.
Thanks for the support, Dad.
Thanks for the support. But he's like, you could do it. And then you're like, well, which fucking way are we going? You know? So, but anyways, he's an engineer. You got to think, everybody that's an engineer, their whole job is to find failure in things, right? Yeah. I don't want the fucking roof to fall in. I don't want the bridge to collapse. So where's the pinnacle point that this thing breaks? And that's what they're looking for. And why does it break?
Yeah. It's like they work in worst case scenarios and making sure they don't happen.
And a lot of them live in that. Like they live in worst case scenarios. They're very, frugal, paranoid people sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but he's also a very hands-on crafty guy. So that's the benefit. He's like, okay, go ahead and do it. So he ended up co-signing for me on my first lot. It helped me co-sign it because I couldn't afford it. And I was still working for him at the time. So I'd go check the job, like when I got back from jobs or in between jobs, if I was in town working for him. And I built a house, a spec house, a house for sale. That's what that is. It's a speculatory investment. Essentially, you build a house from ground up. And that first house, I made $45,000 when I sold it. I built it, it took me like 9-10 months, sold it in the first year, made 45 grand. And and that was more than I made per hour working for my dad that year. Yeah. I was W-2, like making $40,000 a year. Yeah. Or I think I was like $15 an hour. And I was like, holy shit, this is how money can be made. Like, that was mind blowing. I think that was where my mental shift and my mindset immediately started taking.
Before you get into that, as far as that house goes, like was it just an empty lot in the middle of fucking nowhere, or was it a lot like in a development?
In a development. Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the leftover lots in an older development.
Oh, okay.
Not older, but like the majority of the houses were built like a year ago. And then this one's just left behind. And, then you found somebody that owned a couple. And then I bought that one.
Is it usual or typical for scenarios like that to happen, or is it usually they'll only let certain builders do it, or what? Like, is that
if it's a new development, they'll typically only let certain builders do it. But sometimes, depending on the development, every state's different. This is the big thing. It's like every state's different on developments. But Oklahoma, typically, there's a developer, and then they'll sell lots to builders. And sometimes the developer themselves will build on their own. Like, you guys all know track houses; they build on their own lots. But it's so, for example, if the builder has a few left over and he's just done building or doesn't want to build them or waiting on them, he'll sell them too. Yeah. He'll make money on them.
I gotcha. Did you actually have your own LLC at that time?
I started it. I got guidance on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I created my own company, created my own everything, and then I did that one deal in that company.
Yeah. How did you bankroll the construction? Did you get a construction
loan
on top of
That's what he co-signed for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it was the land and a construction
Well,
loan.
when you had the land, the land and the construction, that's when the bank backs it.
I got you.
So they're either one or the other. You're either gonna put down a deposit with the bank, or you're gonna own the land.
I got you. So it took 9 or 10 months. You made $45K. What did you do? Did you celebrate at all, or did you go right into the like, holy fuck? I
did the next one. Yeah, I just moved to the next one. I started the next one, and on that one I made less money because it took longer to sell.
Yeah.
So I realized, it's not always gravy train. No.
Yeah. Location's important.
Yeah. Timing.
Yeah.
Things you can't control.
Yeah. How many of those did you do?
The specs. So I built about 3 to 5, if I remember right, and I made money on all of them. I even got to a point where I took down a couple lots, and then I sold the lot. So I'd made money on the lot, just like I had bought the lot. And I still wasn't a real estate investor minded person though. You know what I mean? I was still a builder. Like I need to build, I need to design this wall, what color paint, like what's cool, what's trendy. That was where my mind was. Like, how can I make this product perfect?
Yeah. So you built a handful of those. What was the shift that got you into the real estate mindset?
So from there, I go and I start getting custom homes off of those. So when I'd have them for sale, people would be like, "This is really good. You do a great job." But I have a lot in another neighborhood. I have land in east of town, and can you build on it? I'm like, yes. So I did customs, and I would do customs for people, and I would do what's called cost plus. And so I would build the house, and say it cost $1 million. I would do whatever the cost is. The cost is $1 million plus in between 10 and 15%, depending on the client, depending on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so they bankroll the house, their loan, their construction loan. I don't carry any of the debt, and then I just make the percentage on top. But all of your company revenue, or all of your company expenses, come out of that 10 to 15%. So that's your gross revenue.
Were there ever instances where in those situations you lost money because you bid it wrong, or you fucking paid too much for something, or like did you ever have things go wrong?
On a spec house, yes. On a house that I built for sale, yes. I learned a real hardcore lesson in 2018. On custom houses, no, because on customs, we're giving you an estimate. This is an estimate. We don't know what things are going to cost, Mr. Ritland. Here you go. And then anything it costs, it's going to be 15% for me. So I take no liability basically. Yeah. But at the same time, this is where I shift from like being pissed off in the skid steer, starting my business, doing this, to being like, oh, I'm in another rat race. Yeah. I'm in another fucking mess. I hate, because now the clients feel like they own you.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing your house for you and your wife, blah, blah, blah. We got this going on. We're paying you 15. We're paying you great money. You know, and the expectations can never be met because I'm herding cats essentially, right? I got labor hands that are making mistakes in the field. It's not a perfect product.
Yeah.
You know, it's a house made by people, and there are thousands of people that work on this project.
Yeah. And
there are things that happen. There are things a window gets broken by the cleaning lady with the broom on accident. You know, if you expect me to cover all of that, then I would make zero profit and do this house for free.
Yeah.
And so that's where it got really hard. And I was making good money. Building up customs, doing customs. I'd done show houses. I'd done Street of Dreams. I'd done Parade of Homes. Those are like high-level show homes. And then 2018, I was like, dude, fuck it. I just need to do more. Like, I need to get houses for sale. So I can build these things for, $700,000-800,000. I can sell them for $1 million. I'm going to make great money. In 2018, the market wasn't super booming, but it was steady. And so I built $2 million specs, one with a partner, one by myself. And at this time, my wife and I we'd been married. I have 2 kids. I freaking started the business. I mean, all of that's going on the backside. All right. And I already built my own home too. At 30 years old, I built a 3,500 square foot house in a gated neighborhood with a pool because I was doing well. You know, I was like, fuck yeah, push it. Yeah. Had all the toys. And I'm like, dude, let's just keep going. This must get better. If I do more return. But I only know one part of real estate, and that's just building a home. So I was a one-faceted, person. And so we go to build these 2, build one with a partner, build one by myself, and I held on to them for a lot longer. So now I have these payments, like $4 or $5 grand payments on each property, and they're just ticking and ticking and ticking. And that was the lowest low. I mean, that's where we're freaking worried about cash flow. We're worried about getting people paid. We're stretching credit cards. So I learned my mistakes, and what I really learned is that I was like, it's not how hard I'm pushing. It's the vehicle that I'm in that I'm pushing on. And so I need to learn something more. And so what I needed to learn was I needed to learn how to invest. I'm like, how can I make these liabilities now an opportunity to make more money? And that's where most people struggle, is they think they can just do one thing and it's going to be, no, you gotta do one thing, but then you got to see what other options are with it.
Yeah.
you know,
what it leads to.
Yeah. So I ended up put all 3 houses for sale. My house for sale, the spec house is already for sale, and then the partnership house is for sale, right? We end up selling, what do you think I sold first? My fucking house that I lived in. It's the least expensive. So I sold it for like $600,000 and I made like $100,000 on it. Super stoked about that. I'm like only 30, 31 years old at the time when I sold it, or 32, can't remember. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is how it's done. But then I moved into the spec, which is a monster home and more than really I wanted. Like I was more expensive than I really could afford, but I had to moved into it. Then I sold the other house with my partner, and I had to bring $60,000 to the closing table just because we wanted to get it off our books because we're paying for it monthly. So we together brought $60,000. So I lost 30 just to sell the home. The realtor walks away with a freaking check. I bring the check to the table, and I'm like, that's another epiphany that I had. I'm like, okay, I'm taking all this risk as a builder. I'm building this house for sale. It takes me freaking 10 months, 12 months, to build this fucking thing from ground up. Designers, get the bank loan, my neck's on the line. And then the realtor walks away with a $45,000 check, and I have to pay $30,000. Like, I don't know something. I need to learn more. This is a red flag. Either I continue to bang my head against the wall, or I figure out how this really works.
Yeah. So what was next?
I ended up selling the house that I'd moved in, the house, the spec house for sale. I made $100,000 on that plus, and I was like, thank God, give me some of my money back. This is all within a period of like a year and a half, right? 2 years. So we rent a house, and then we're getting ready to build another one because that's what you do as a builder. You build your own homes because you can build equity into them, and it's great. Build another home. But what we did really that was super important, dude, we invested like $52,000, and we put it on 2 credit cards at the same time. Well, we're already struggling. $52,000 into a real estate investing course where I would go out once a quarter, and I would go to these classes, and I'd sit all weekend, and I'd learn about real estate investing. I would learn about how to buy multifamily, how to buy commercial, how to buy mobile home parks, how to buy single family, how to fix and flip, how to build portfolios, how to create a finance, all of these things. I was all in.